Hello, I'm Alexander, and today we'll talk about the brand new Kefine Delci IEM. Kefine is a relatively new name in our hobby, and Delci is the company's second IEM, but the people behind the brand are veterans of our hobby. Delci has a 10mm dynamic driver with DLC plus PU diaphragm, fully metal shells, and detachable cable. It comes in a medium-sized stylish black box with a sleeve, and I need to admit this is one of the best presentations I've seen so far in this price bracket. In the box we have Kefine Delci in-ear monitors, user manual and warranty card, a nice carrying case, detachable cable, 7 pairs of silicone ear tips, one of which comes pre-installed, and a QC cord. The impedance of Delci is 28 ohms and the sensitivity is 108 dB. The shells of Delci are made out of two gunmetal gray parts glued together. The shells also have a quite unusual shapes. A small platform protrudes on the faceplate and the Kefine logo is placed there. The IEM also has two pressure vents on the shell's inner part, next to the channel indication. The shell has a slightly longer and thick metal nozzle. There is also a beautiful mesh at its end. The nozzle diameter at the widest part is 6 mm. The two pin connectors are conveniently located on top of the IEM, and while I like the build, the design of the shell is not my cup of tea. The cable that comes with this IEM is good. It's 1.2 meters long and has metal connectors on both ends, an alloy splitter and a chin slider. The cable is soft and is low in microphonics. There is a straight 3.5mm connector on one end and two 0.78mm connectors on the other. While there is nothing fancy about this cable, I will still mention that it's built better than many other stock cables I have experienced in this price bracket. Now a couple words about fit and comfort. The IEM has quite an unusual shape, so finding a good seal and fit in my case was a bit challenging. Despite having a long nozzle, the fit is still shallow, so I had to go through different ear tips and even ear tip sizes to achieve a good seal. The stock ear tips worked for me, but in the end I still ended up using SpinFit CP100 Plus, which provided a better seal and a more comfortable fit in my case. While it's not the most comfortable pair for me, the fit is still a subjective thing, so it can suit your ears just fine. Before we start talking about the sound, please note that all sound impressions in my reviews are completely subjective. You should take them with a grain of salt. Delci has both low impedance and high sensitivity, and you can drive it with ease with many portable sources. But surprisingly, this IEM loves additional power. I started my tests using the iPhone and Apple dongle and it had no problems driving Delci. But using it with a source that can output at least 50 mW of power at 32 ohms can yield a better result. Delci is a U-shaped IEM with a well-pronounced bass, warm lower mid-range, recessed upper mid-range and a soft treble, which results in a lush and laid-back presentation. There is a lot of bass here and it's got a good body and impact. The sub-bass is more dominant on this pair and there's no clear separation between sub-bass and the mid-bass. The bass is not bloated and has a good amount of details. EDM tracks sound like they should and bass heads will be pleased too. Due to bass bleed, the mid-range is warm and also recessed a bit, so the instruments and vocals occasionally take a back seat. The timbre is accurate and there's enough clarity and energy. The upper mid-range is relaxed, linear and never shouty. I also found the mid-range very enjoyable and lush. However, I need to admit that sometimes the mid-range feels distant. On the other hand, the lack of energy in the upper mid-range can also be beneficial, especially if your music is not recorded very well. The treble of Delci is soft and relaxed. It lacks a bit of air and sparkle for my personal preference, but such treble complements the overall relaxed tuning of the IEM. The treble still reveals many details and nuances in the recordings, and there are no harsh peaks here either. I would call the treble presentation wailed a bit, so if you're sensitive to treble, Delci can be a safe choice. The soundstage is below average in width and not very deep. The imaging is good and the separation of instruments is good too. The detail retrieval is average, but it corresponds to the price bracket. You can easily identify what instruments are playing in the background. The whole presentation feels very coherent and I think we don't need to be very picky here. Now a bit about comparisons. In a highly competitive sub $100 bracket, there are a few single dynamic driver IEMs that have caught my attention in the past few years. These are Dunu Titan S, Moondrop Aria 2, TNT3 Plus, and SimGod EA500. Compared to Titan S, Delci is more laid back with much more bass, a less fatiguing upper mid-range, and a softer treble. Titan S, on the other hand, is more analytical IEM, though its spicy upper mid-range might not suit everyone. Compared to Moondrop Aria 2, Delci has more bass, a more linear mid-range, and a more rounded upper mid-range. In the treble department, both pairs are more or less in the same league, but I find the treble on Delci slightly more natural. Compared to TNT3 Plus, Delci has a pinch more bass, a more relaxed upper mid-range, and a slightly more natural treble. I also like the texture of the bass on Delci more. Compared to SimGod EA500 with red filters, Delci has more bass and more relaxed upper mid-range. EA500 is a more lean-sounding IEM, yet it's slightly more detailed than Delci. However, I still find the treble on EA500 slightly artificial. While it boils down to personal preference, out of these 5 IEMs, Delci is the most rounded, coherent and balanced one, especially if you love bass. The comfort-wise, I still prefer Titan S and T3 Plus, as they fit my ears much better, but your mileage may vary. Let's summarize. So what do I like about Delci? Warm and lush U-shaped sound signature, full-bodied bass response, relaxed upper mid-range with no glare, good technical abilities for its price, good stock cable, a nice storage case that can easily hold the IEMs, cable and a portable dongle deck amp, and Delci has an excellent price-to-performance ratio. What I didn't like: stock ear tips are hard to put on, the fit was still a bit shallow in my case, and the treble lacks some air and sparkle for my personal preference. I've been using Delci for over 2 weeks as my go-to IEM for music, gaming and office work, and I'm quite impressed. It's neither a detail monster nor a king of the mid-range, but Kefine did a great job tuning it, and Delci is an IEM with a non-fatiguing and lush sound signature with lots of bass. Delci also doesn't have an upper mid glare that some of its competition is infamous for, and as a result you get a well-tuned and priced IEM. That's exactly why Delci is now on my list of the best IEMs under $100 that you can buy in 2024. And that concludes my review for today. If you want to see more content like this, please consider subscribing to my YouTube channel. Thank you for joining me, and until next time, goodbye.